I'm Felicity Norman. I'm the Mayor of Leominster at the moment. I'm also a county councillor and a town councillor.
What can you tell me just a little bit about Leominster? What's the things that you think, as me never having come here before, what are the important things about this place?
Right, well, I'm going to start off by saying Leominster is an incredibly friendly town. It's very small and it's a really great place to visit. People are welcoming and like to chat and tell you all about the town. Second thing that's wonderful is virtually every building in the town is old, has a fantastic history, and we all ought to find out a great deal more about it.
Tell me what you thought about this morning's talks.
Well, I was riveted. I need to know an awful lot more. It's kind of set off all kinds of questions in my mind, and I shall be exploring and finding out a lot more. It also rang a few bells, things I'd heard before, for example, about the Southhalls and the role they played in the town, because at least one, maybe more, were town councillors in the past and responsible for all sorts of tremendously important initiatives. So yes, it's got me thinking and got me keen to find out more.
Are you from here originally, or did you move here?
No, I've been here about 35 years-ish, actually living here. I've known the town a lot longer. My family farm probably more over the Bromyard way, so I'm sort of partly from around here, although my father was actually in the army and we travelled a great deal.
Do you think that being such a historic place, people in general in the town have more interest in history than they might do in a more modern place?
I don't know about that. A lot of people aren't very interested and probably just take it all for granted, but we have got a really thriving history society and lots of people who are interested. And, for example, people coming along to Peter's talks, we get dozens and dozens, don't we, Jill? There's just so many people who want to know more about it. Yes, there is a lot of interest.
How the certificates usually work. Yeah, but have you seen who did it? Oh yes, I do. But I mean, I'm just going to yes, that's right. Do you know what?
I don't know. But it seems quite possible. Again, it is possible to do something significant. Behind me is Newman House, which was the orphans' home. And I know a lot of what I'm going to tell you is probably reiterating what people have said already today. Don't worry about it. I'll also give you a lot of information while we're walking. Again, don't worry about that, because at the end of the walk I'm going to give you a little summary of everything I've told you. Eventually housed 40 children under the age of 10 who were accepted irrespective of creed and cared for and educated until capable of taking situations. The aims of the home were to provide industrial training, to provide elementary education, and to provide sound scriptural foundations. That's all happy, folks. They're now private flats.
Two separate houses, were they?
Pardon?
They were two separate houses.
There was a boys' house and a girls' house, yes.
Yes. So they were always joined together in the it does in the style.
I'm more the Herefordshire Southwalls as opposed to the Birmingham Southwalls, or the two main sort of...
Right. Yeah. Oh, right. To go and have a look at and pay our respects to him is good old Henry Stanley Newman. And he's just along here. The man that all those orphans owe so much to. Very inconspicuous, but that's Henry Stanley Newman. But you're very welcome to look at this. I did bring another copy of it, and I think Anne brought... if you're trying to find somebody in particular, do come and have a look and see if you can... As he was saying, they chose so many names that were not original to their families, so there are also lots of Edwards and Georges and so on. But yes, there's Pumphrey's. Hasn't he done fairly recently to record all the...
That is Charles Milner Benyon and his wife, Marianne, who are my... Charles is my two times great grandfather's younger brother.
Two times great uncle.
Yes.
This is my great-grandfather, Henry John Southall, who lived at 20 Etnam Street in Leominster.
I know the name, Grandpa. Yes.
I wonder why the shape is different on that one to all the others.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is. I wonder who that person is. Who knows?
But that does say he lived adventurously.
I'm going to take that for myself. I like it a lot.
You like that one?
He lived adventurously, yeah. That can be on mine one day.
Across the road is West Lodge, which Peter introduced you to this morning, which was the home of the Southwell family, or the Southall family. And the land beyond the ring road was the farm he talked about. This was the original home of the Orphans printing press, with a gas-operated printing press which cost £100. Henry Newman founded the Orphans Press to give orphans 3 hours of work in the morning with lessons in the afternoon. In line with the principles of the Orphans Home, the press aims were to provide industrial training, to generate income to support the Orphans Home, to publish material that would act as a force for good, and the press also printed for the Leominster Tract Association and the Quaker magazine The Friend, which Henry Newman edited until his death in. You were listening to Helen this morning, well done. The new Elementary Education Act of 1880 prohibited employing children under 10. Older boys later found employment at the press, and the press was sold in 1918. However, the present owners hope they still maintain some of the principles of the founder. In 2014, an orphans press printed a book about Elizabeth Clark, which is more about earlier. In terms of boys and men, there is a gentleman called Colin Gardner who retired in 2015 after celebrating 60 years as a member of staff at the current Orphans Press. He told me the story that he went for his interview on a Friday afternoon and the owner said, "Can you start Monday morning?" And he started Monday morning and worked for 60 years. Sometime the Orphans Press moved to the building, as you can see there with the about face theatre company over the top, which is the warehouse that Peter showed you the back view of earlier this morning with the high door to the letterbox. Just a word about the Forbury Chapel. It was built in 1282 as a gift from John Peckham, who was the current Archbishop of Canterbury, who had visited the monks at Leominster Priory and wanted to give them a gift for their hospitality. So they built a chapel just inside the west gate of the monastery, which would have been across where you see this red brick pillar there. The other connection there is that also housed Leominster Jail in the archway, which was above the west gate, and it is reported that on one occasion a Quaker preacher was preaching, which upset the local Anglican rector, and he had him arrested and placed in the jail. It is also reported that several other Quakers who refused to swear oaths were also jailed here in Leominster Jail. In 1742, the town council voted to have it demolished because it was reported to be dangerous. That was in November 1742. In March 1743, they actually agreed that's what they were going to do, and in April 1743, it collapsed anyway. Community had significant connections with one of Leominster's most beautiful and unique buildings, the building known today as Grange Court, which was built in 1633 to demonstrate the wealth and power of the local merchant guilds by John Abel of Sarnesfield. Originally it stood at the top of Broad Street, that's where the original Orphans Press was and where Barclays Bank is now, and in 1853 was considered to be a traffic hazard because you couldn't get past in your horse and cart. So it was dismantled, put into storage, and in 1855 Randolph Hearst, the American, wanted to buy it and have it shipped to America. And the local people went, "You can't have it," as we do. And up popped a gentleman by the name of Theodore Neal, a well-known Quaker family. And he bought the building in 1907 and began preservation and restoration of the building. It remained a family home until 1939, when it was requisitioned by the local council for the war effort. It remained council offices until 2006, when Herefordshire Council decided that they didn't want it any longer and they were going to put it on the market for £400,000. A local solicitor going through the documents relating to the property discovered that there was a covenant that said if Herefordshire County Council ceased to use the building, it reverted to the people of Leominster in perpetuity. On July the 31st, 2013, we ceremoniously presented a £1 coin to the chairman of Herefordshire Council. And look what we've got now. You'll see various plaques on the doors, which are members of royalty who've been here over the years. But a more recent important visitor, or a couple of important visitors, last year we had a group of curators from the Kremlin Museum in Moscow visiting Leominster, which included the daughter and granddaughter of one Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space. So you are now walking in their footsteps as well.
What was their interest?
Why did they come to Leominster?
They were doing a study through, a history study through the country, visiting various places, and decided to come to Leominster. Yes.
Where the drawings were taken, the two of the landlady and the opera.
You will notice that we walked down Duke's Walk. Duke's Walk was added by the 11th Duke of Norfolk, Charles in 1792, because he didn't want to have to walk to church by going all the way up Wicken Street, down South Street, down the High Street and up Church Street. But that must have been very convenient for Helen Newman Neal to pop home and see Mum and Dad, who were living here. Henry Newman and his wife lived here until 1912, when he then bequeathed Norfolk House to his daughter Helen and her husband Theodore Neal, so they inherited the house after that. It then became a children's home during the 1950s. Run by Stonewater and provides 31 bedroom homes for local people. So it's still caring for the community the way that Quakers have always seemed to have done during their time here in Leominster. Museum was originally built in 1853 as the railwaymen's mission when the railways came to Leominster between 1853 and 1855. An interesting fact for you, Hereford was the last city in England to be connected to the National Rail Network. We've always been last at everything. In 1886, the Quaker Men's School opened here, and we've been trying to find out how long the men and the women's school actually continued for. And Maggie Walden's come up with some information that said they were still operating in the 1950s. But when the men's disappeared, she doesn't know, and she's still actually researching that and the closure of the women's school. The men's school was here, the women's school was on the other side of town in premises in Green Lane. The only building that's big enough to house the school is what's now the current Methodist church, but it wasn't there then. So keep posted and we'll let you know. Right, so we're going to make our way back to South Street.
Back to the beginning, yeah. Let's go have tea.